Can introverts be effective public speakers? To answer that question, I'm going to start with a personal story. I was part of a training a few months ago, and we were playing this or that. It's a very simple ice-breaking game. You say this or that. For example, coffee, this, or tea, that. And the participants that prefer coffee go to one side of the room, and the participants that prefer tea go to the other side of the room. Simple enough. Until we get to this question, introvert or extrovert? Now keep in mind, I am in a training for trainers, for facilitators, for public speakers. And the facilitators of this training, the people who had hired me, they knew who I was, they knew my background, and they had seen many of my YouTube videos. So when I was the only person to walk to the introvert line, there's a little bit of a confusion. In fact, I remember the trainer looking at me specifically and saying, "Say more." She couldn't quite understand how someone who has a YouTube channel, who is a professional speaker, could identify as being an introvert. Well, it's true. I would classify myself as an introvert before I classify myself as an extrovert. Now, hold on. Disclaimer. Keep in mind that introversion and extroversion are not on and off switches. They're dimmers. Just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that you want to be an introvert all the time. Just because you're an extrovert doesn't mean that you want to be an extrovert all the time. And there is a term called ambivert that defines both being an introvert and an extrovert. But here's an important distinction specifically about introverts. Introverts do not mean that they are shy or that they don't have something to say. Introverts simply mean that we are charged and recharged by spending time on our own or with a close group of family and friends over large groups of people. It doesn't mean that we can't be around large groups of people. It just means that it takes a little bit more energy for us to do so. Yes, I love being in big events. I love delivering speeches. I love facilitating workshops. I love having one-on-one client interactions. And I also know that in order to be effective, I need to manage my energy. So anytime I'm on a trip where I'm delivering a keynote or facilitating a workshop, I make sure that after the event is over, I spend some intentional time recharging. Now, this introvert didn't get to be a keynote speaker by accident. It happened through a lot of training, a lot of experience, and a lot of pushing outside of my own comfort zone. And there's three mindsets that I have for introverts, three mindsets that I consistently remind myself for in order to be an effective public speaker and communicator. So here are the three tips. Tip number one, humility is not hiding. A lot of times introverts will use humility as a flag/shield to cover themselves around. Well, I don't want to speak up. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to be the center of attention because I don't think that that would be humble. All right, introverts, let's get real. That's just a fake excuse. Humility understands that you are not better than anyone else, but it also understands that you are not worse than anyone else either. In fact, the word humility means of the ground. I want you to picture a gigantic tree. It is deeply rooted in the ground, but it's not hiding. Introverts have something important to say to their communities, to their workplaces, to their families, but too often they hold back as a guise of humility. So if you struggle to speak up for yourself, first understand, are you doing it because you're hiding, or are you doing it because there's a legitimate fear? Speaking of legitimate fears, let's go to tip number two. Tip number two is the more uncomfortable it feels, the better it looks. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about pain. I don't think that you should ever be in a painful situation. However, when you are up in front of an audience and you are maintaining your body posture and you have direct eye contact and you have effective facial expressions, it's going to feel really uncomfortable for any introvert because you're expending energy. You're using your mental and physical space to engage an audience, and that is very depleting. But when you are stepping into that discomfort, when you understand that that discomfort is not for you, it is for the audience, that is when highly effective public speaking can occur. And the final tip, and something really, really important, is this. You matter. What you say matters, what you do matters, the ideas that you have matter. And so when you have ideas that matter, ideas that can transform your communities, your workplaces, your families, and you hold them back, I'm just going to be real with you. That's being selfish of you. You are choosing your comfort over your courage. Look, from one introvert to the other, I know how draining it can be to be around people. I know how draining it can be to exert energy to be around people. But that can't be the excuse as to why you don't speak up for yourself. That can't be the excuse as to why you don't present your ideas in front of a stage of an audience of thousands or an audience of one. Now, these mindsets are simple, but they're not easy. And the way to make them easier is by simply putting them into practice. So what's something you can do today, introvert? What's one way that you can stretch outside of your comfort zone? Drop your comfort stretching activity into the comments so that we can all learn from you and support you. As always, introverts and extroverts, make sure that you come off of mute, speak up your story, and until next time, we'll see you soon.